Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Just Another Kill Team podcast, connecting kill team communities across the globe. If you're passionate about the tactical skirmish game that brings together strategy, lore, and creativity, you are in the right place. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and stay updated with our latest episodes. If you want to support the show, check out our Patreon. Your support means a lot to us. Follow us by using the social media links in the podcast description for all the latest news, and be sure to leave a review to let us know what you think. Thanks for tuning in. Here's today's episode. I actually just played a Gellerpox game a couple of days ago, and I was like, ooh, this is rough. I got so smoked. I did a bad job, though. I'm a bad Gellerpox player. I has Plague Marines, and I took Barrel Warp, which I think was my first mistake. I think you need the spikes thing.
Yes, you take spikes in that matchup.
Yep. And I was like,
yeah,
yep,
absolutely.
definitely going to do the spikes. But I was like, it was the first time I ever tried to play him in 3rd edition. I was like, I'm going to start with what I know, which is Barrel Warp. And then I kept on while playing the game, and I was like, the spikes one looks pretty good. I'm going to use my equipment to try it out. And then I was like...
spikes is phenomenal. It's so much fun.
I
feel like it's the one that's the most generically useful now, right?
Yeah, that's probably the go-to. I don't know. Is it?
I go between spikes and barrel warp. They're both good. They both have uses. A lot of teams that can alpha strike you or, hit you with a little like guardsman guy with a big weapon like a Melta. Barrel warp's where you want it because rust spikes doesn't really change the math all that much.
Yeah.
Into like guardsman, you're gonna kill him realistically in 2 hits no matter what. Yeah. Sometimes 1 if you're feeling saucy.
You got a couple of these, you can do it in 1 shot, right?
Yeah.
Especially the lopping blow on the shriek. Something about a shriek. Scream.
The screamer.
The screamer.
Yeah. Have you played the Vox Static on against Wrecker Crew yet?
No, I've never played Vox Static, period. I just think it's the 3rd best one, of course, but the other two are just leagues.
Have you played against a bunch of Wrecker Crew? Or no?
I have,
and you still choose the other ones?
Yeah, Barrel Warp was, I tried it once and it wasn't that great, but Rust Spikes is just very good into them still, because it messes around with them a bunch, and especially if they take a lot of, like, Break-a-Boy fighters. It's one of those things that kind of gets around some little breakpoints, or it leaves them wounded enough that like some of the curse mites or something can come finish the job.
Yeah. Do the rust spikes work when fighting or retaliating? I guess I didn't look into it that much. It's only when you're fighting or retaliating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So whenever your operators are fighting or retaliating against someone, if they miss dice, they get 1 or 2 damage against Volgar.
The 2 gets real spicy.
Yeah,
I've only actually pulled it off effectively versus Blades of Cain once, but man, did it clap!
I think pretty much like we've seen any chip damage for these melee hordes ends up mattering quite a bit. I think over long games, just because if you have a lot of wounds and your opponent misses once, suddenly that 1 or 2 chip damage can become like almost a full hit, and then really messes up the nice math, right?
Especially with rust emanations.
Yeah, because you're kind of forcing them to miss.
What were you going to say?
Okay. All right. I guess since we've been talking about Gellerpox a little bit, where is the best Gellerpox player in the world, I suppose? Where do you put Gellerpox right now? What are their, like, as far as meta goes? Since people are here and they're hearing about Gellerpox from Orion himself, if they haven't been on Command Point, do you think they're good right now? Or do you think that they're just fine and they've got weak matchups?
No, they're absolutely a good team. They have very good matchups. They do have some bad ones, but if you're smart about it, you can relatively handle the bad ones. Sometimes you might get stuck on a map that's very unfavorable, or Lord help you if you're playing Beta Decima, then they're bad. Just don't even try. Just acknowledge your fault.
We're not playing in that realm, so I guess that's easy enough. They're a melee horde. How do they compare against the other melee hordes? You got Felgor, you got Blooded, who are a little bit of a mix. I guess you got Exaction Squad floating around. How do they feel in comparison to those teams? Oh, I guess Goremongers too on some level.
Cults as well.
Yeah, Colts. Mm-hmm.
The funny part to me is all of those teams you've mentioned, like Gellerpox, are at the top if you put them directly against Gellerpox.
Okay.
They beat every other melee team known to man. But a lot of those teams have more flexibility into shooting teams because they have different dynamic weapons or, weapons that extend past 6 inches, which Gellerpox certainly lacks. The threat projection can be a little tricky for Gellerpox, and you really have to get creative with how you force your opponent to engage with you. And like a lot of those other melee teams, they can go to the opponent. Yeah, reliably. They have 8-inch move or ways to boost movement or multiple angles for threats. So that's where like Gellerpox falls short sometimes, especially now with like the 5-inch movement. But I think they're good. They can easily stand on their own. If we're going like the letter ranking for tier list, I'd say they're easy like a high B, in my opinion.
Yeah, I've gotten the sense that they've got enough activations, they have enough wounds, and some of the tricks that made them powerful in the last edition are still there as far as the offensive push, kind of like how Void Dancers have been doing, I think, better than all of the reports of, oh, they're not good anymore, have led maybe other people to believe. Like, they're still doing pretty well week to week. They've still got a pretty good offensive punch. It's just that defensively they're a little bit weaker. And I think Gellerpox are kind of in that same boat, right? Because in the last edition, you could rely on a bunch of dice to save you out of some shots, and now you have extra wounds, but you just take more damage overall, right?
You do take more. It's weird. You take more damage, but you lose less models. It's been a weird trade-off in this edition because before you used to hemorrhage the little guys trying to secure all your like 6 points. Mm-hmm. But now it's almost like half the time they don't have anything to do. So your opponent doesn't focus on them. And they just try to go for the Hulks a lot of times. In which case you have all the little guys just running around, doing a bunch of chip damage, getting ignored. And then the Hulks are just kind of like the bullet sponges of the team still. They do go down nowadays. But then you're just left with like a full like team of like 7 or 8 models that are just hanging out doing stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the one time I played them in this edition, I was playing Blades of Cain, and I honestly, I just like barely squeaked out a win just because the matchup is kind of rough because I've got models with 8 wounds, and oh, look, a mutant pair did a GA2 activation, and they lopped off 2 of my dudes, and now I'm on the back foot all over again.
Yeah, the GA2 is also uniquely fun, especially with mutants who can throw frags or crack grenades. Because now they have a versatility to kill you a little bit better.
Yeah, there's just a little bit more flexibility kind of across the board on the team, right?
I'd say so from last edition. They're not as aggressive in your face turn 2, but now they have more options in terms of the equipment that they get to take, and that kind of changes how they play.
Yeah, that's actually one of my big questions for you. What is your like go-to equipment loadout for Gellerpox? Or does it change a lot?
It does kind of change. The guarantees are always the vermin. It's always taking the bugs nowadays. Before the balance patches, sometimes I didn't take all of them, but now, yeah, you always take the 4 bugs. The bugs change drastically, though. I think at Goonhammer I took every bug in some capacity. So there's none that was really too good over the other, although I think if I had to pick, sludge grubs are the universal like best choice.
Those are the slow grubs that explode on death and have a Pierce 2 or Pierce 1 shot.
Yeah, Pierce 1 devil.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. On Into the Dark, it also gets lethal 5, or in shooting and
strongholds. Yeah, so like it's pretty flexible. I think they were like the de facto last edition. Also, I think when you were on here a ways back, you mentioned that they pretty much always do something, and in this edition, it basically seems the same.
Yeah, they're not as good now because of like hatchways. Like going through a door now, they only have 3 inches of movement, which is incredibly limiting. That there's sometimes where I'm like, or like with strongholds, you can't see into the stronghold, and they can't really move over it enough to even get in. So they are hindered a little bit more than they were. Yeah. But all the bugs have come down in terms of
they can't even use none of them fly anymore. The same way that ratlings do.
Yeah, because they're so small.
Yeah, they're little babies. But yeah, always the vermin. Cracks are usually what I take because Hulks with extra shooting, it is absolutely welcome. That's one of the biggest changes. Having Hulks, like if they get stunned or something, they can still just shoot. Has been very helpful. So it's cracks, sometimes maybe frags mixed in or whatnot, but always that, just to give Hulks more versatility. And then from there, it can change a lot. Pollute stockpile if I'm feeling saucy, which at Goonhammer I was feeling very saucy. I took it every game. More so because it wasn't a good choice. It was just making my opponent have a bad choice. It was kind of just seeing what they did with that information, even if it didn't really do anything. It messes with them. And then,
I mean, I think there's definitely value on upper end competitive play for like throwing your opponent off their game, right? And especially when you get to choose, you're going to snipe the thing that you think is the most powerful, right?
Yeah, I only got to choose once out of all 5 games, Goonhammer, which wasn't my favorite, but it still did work because a lot of times my opponent would choose the equipment that I wanted to get rid of anyway, and I was like, well, all right, this worked out. Yeah, that's been a fun one. Light barricades are great because the little glitch things having super conceal, whether you're on Volcus or whatnot, it just gives more places to stage and more places to not get affected by blast. Because that's the biggest thing. As long as you can keep blasts down to a minimum, you usually just overwhelm your opponent. The way to beat Gellerpox usually is just getting like the 2-for-1s or sometimes like 4-for-1 trades because everything's so low on health. That's where you keep the numbers down and then you just beat down the Hulks alongside it. So having more places to stage is always great. So the light barricades and heavy barricades I chose. And beyond that, I mean, there wasn't really too many other things I took besides like ladders. If there was a map I really wanted to like climb into my opponent's side or something like that, I'd take the ladder or whatnot.
You haven't just been playing Gellerpox at like Goonhammer Open. Me and Jason have seen you poke around on some of these local tournaments playing Gellerpox, I think.
I only did, I think, one.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think I've only played one actual tournament beyond that. It was a Plaza Spam event.
Yeah, I think we saw that.
Yeah, that was just like a 3-round event, which I went undefeated at, but I technically didn't like get first on. But yeah, beyond that, I've just only played here and there, like pickup games. So this is my first real big outing with them, and the last as well.
I assume everyone at Nova should be on the lookout for the Gellerpox holds.
No. I think this is their last ride. As much as I don't want it to be, I had so much fun playing them, picking them up again. But yeah, I should probably play something real for Worlds practice. Blah blah blah.
You're gonna play them at Nova. And that's gonna be like the last actual stand, no?
Yeah, I'll keep moving the goalposts. Probably. You're right. Screw everything.
Who knows? Who knows? Maybe in October they're like, actually, Worlds will be played on the current classification, and then all bets are off for everyone who doesn't know how to play a Gellerpox. Then you have to read the rules.
Lord help everybody.
Is the only one that doesn't get rotated out. Everyone's playing Gellerpox.
Listen, I'd take that. I'll take Gellerpox mirrors all day.
It'd be a weird game.
No, please. I don't want to look at them anymore. I mean, to be fair, Gellerpox are like definitely in a very unique spot. There's not a ton of teams that play where they are. Like, we have Chaos Cults, we have Felgor as like melee hordes, but Chaos Cult are kind of like a ramping team, and Felgor are kind of a sticky team. But Gellerpox, you just get all the power right away, and then you bust the lines, and then a bunch of dudes dance on your corpse at this point, right? Compared to last edition, where you're like buying a lot of time until the Hulks went in.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like melting a really slow glacier this edition, because you have all that power, but it can't do anything to you turn 1. So a lot of opponents try to eke out any way they can to slow you down or hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's really not. Yeah, right. Like Razor Wire is a nightmare. For the Nightmare Hulks, it's ironic. Who would win one fence or giant guys? It's really different because last time I was always on the offensive. I was always hunting my opponent down. Like if last edition Gellerpox currently, I'd be playing kill up nonstop. Not the case this edition. I can't really control who I kill. I just know someone will die. whoever I get to when I get to them.
Hey, you can always donk someone on the head, but you can't guarantee that it's going to be the person you want, just because people can creep up pretty slow. You're pretty slow in response. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting team. Goonhammer was a smaller tournament. It was a 5-round, good showing. And I'm curious to see what you're going to do with them next, if you're going to play them at all. But while we were at Goonhammer, you mentioned that you're playing something else on the side right now. And, last time I saw you before this, you were on Kroot. Obviously, you're not on Kroot anymore, but you are on something tangentially related.
Yeah, people keep asking me, like, wait, Orion, do you like Tau? And I'm like, no, I just like all the cool stuff that they've enslaved. Yeah, I've been playing Vespids. For some reason, the brainworms have told me to play with them, and I can't explain why.
Points.
What was that?
The communion helmet has told you?
Yeah, somebody just smacked it on me, and I'm like, wow, bugs are actually really cool. This is awesome. I love spending points to do what everyone else is doing.
I'm like a vibe that glues together Gellerpox, Farstalker, and Vespid Stingwing. They're all like spooky creatures that are trying to like hunt you, There's a thematic glue.
I guess. Yeah, putting on our tinfoil hats, we can break down, the chasms of my brain to decide why I've chosen all three of these specifically.
It turns out this is a psychology episode. All right, you guys, jumping in right away to let you know about the Battle Box from Crossfire Games. This thing absolutely rocks. It holds everything, all of your tokens, cards, miniatures, scorecard, dice tray, and everything. Super incredible. I am very jazzed about it. You should be too. Check it out. We've got a link in the show notes, and you can pick one up for yourself.
Yep, we just see why I'm dumb and can't play meta teams. We just...
But
Vespids are cool.
That's the fun of Kill Team, right? You don't have to play the meta thing. You can be the meta. It's not like we have such a deep game and the game is so like congealed where one person is not able to make the difference. It's just you got to put in the reps. You got to see what works and what doesn't. And, while Vespid haven't been doing all that well, I think week to week, they still have like on the tin some good stuff that makes them look powerful, right? The ability to ignore all the movement rules. You've got the chance of just blowing someone up whenever you shoot. All those things are definitely strong. It's just they come with a lot of downsides. So how have you been mitigating some of those downsides?
There's a lot of downsides, but there's one critical thing that opponents always miss when you're playing Vespids, and it's just getting shot in the face while you're within 2 inches. Nobody beats that. Nothing beats that. You just move. They're not in cover. They can't retain anything. And then you roll crits and they die. Like, easy. I mean, what else do you need?
This isn't the wrong podcast channel, by the way, right? Then we'll play it somewhere else.
That's fair. But yeah, the team has drawbacks, but I have found a lot of success going hyper aggressive with them. Really just kind of swarming your opponent with so many threats that they kind of can't keep up with what you're doing. Hopefully, you're trading, getting a good shot off on them, killing them. They have to put 1 or 2 shots into you because your wound pool is a little bit higher than certain breakpoints, like 4-4 shotguns. 2 hits go through, you're still alive. Which a lot of models can't say is true for them. And then, the mobility to stage turning point 1 is pretty cool that I've enjoyed with them because you can kind of just go a lot of places no one else can, and then you have such wide threat ranges on boards. Like on Vulcus, if you put somebody up on the 3rd vantage point or whatever, you're not aiming to stay up there and shoot. You're aiming to just get within 2 inches of somebody. But they can't do anything about that a lot of cases unless they play too defensively. And if they do that, we just get closer for the 3rd turn.
Easy peasy.
Yeah, obviously easier said than done, but...
I mean, you can also snipe people out with the Ocelli, right? That's a nice, cute little trick, as people are setting up. If they set up on advantage, you just jump up and blow them up anyways.
It's cute. It rarely works. Every time they're like, do you have Seek Light? I'm like, no. I got something though.
Really distinct Seek Light.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, okay, so as long as I just don't go near light terrain, one of your firefight ploys never works. I'm like, yeah, you got it. You're right.
It doesn't strip cover, but you can still use it to jump and give yourself advantage, an accurate one, basically. So there are still some uses for it. I don't know how useful they actually are, but it is kind of funny to think about. Although, really, it sounds like you're just chucking 4 dice most of the time.
I don't think it actually gives you, like, I haven't been playing as it gives accurate one. I've only played it as it gives you the opportunity to shoot them like your own advantage. I didn't think it gave you that.
I might be.
Okay, for those of us that have no idea what's going on, it's a firefight ploy. Ocelli? Is that what it's called?
It is the eye. It is the multispectral eyes of the Vespid, and it says it benefits from the first and second main features of Vantage terrain. So it definitely works. Because Vantage is the thing that provides accurate one.
So it's just you are somewhere, you use this firefight ploy, and then you shoot them from Vantage even if you're standing on the ground. Because you're flying. Yep.
Yeah, you move 3 inches higher, and it counts you as being on Vantage.
Okay, so it's kind of like Seek Light with accurate and all.
Yep. Well, although to be fair, if you're shooting, you only get the accurate if you're shooting against an engaged operative. So in the primary use case that most people imagine it for, when you're sniping someone hiding, you're not going to get the accurate. But when you're doing counterfire after people have responded to your first couple operatives, then you can get accurate 1, accurate 2, which can be kind of fun.
Well, likewise, that would mean your opponent is getting the double retain, right?
Only when you're shooting at people who are concealed. So yes, in that one use case, it's not quite as good. But against people who've already engaged, like, somewhere on turn 2 or turn 3 after the gunfight has started, then it has some extra benefits, which can be kind of nice. Obviously, Vespid with the buff to the little drone don't really need the reliability as much as they used to, and accurate 2 is definitely less good now that you have lethal 5 and you kind of want to roll dice.
Yeah, it depends on what their wound state is, because the warriors naturally have accurate 1 if you don't use communion for rerolling. So, I mean, if you did use that, I guess in theory you would get accurate 2 in that sense. Yeah. In which case, as long as you push through your 4 dice, minimum you're dealing 3 damage to somebody. And if they're on low health, that might just do it.
Yeah, it's especially definitely interesting operative. Do you have any highlight operatives? I know the Flamer exists, but I've never really seen him do all that much. I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah, the Flamer does exist. He is an operative that looks at the rest of the team while they're playing on the board. He's my number 1 cheerleader. I really enjoy the Shade Strain. He's one of the most unique piece operatives I've ever played in any kill team. Just because he's not a valid target unless you're within 6 of him. And which is very cool because a lot of the times you can stage him up on a Vantage where there's no other Vantage to shoot him within 6, and then no one can really target him unless they have Seek Light and within 6. And he just creates this very unique staging point where if your opponent gets, they can't do anything about him unless they get into the middle and then activate, and then he can come in later and kind of capitalize on things. Or early game, you can throw him up on a Vantage to get an Alpha Strike for turn 2. And your opponent really can't do anything about that, as to where normally, that operative be wide out in the open, just begging for a plasma shot, So he's been one of my favorite ones to play around with.
Yeah, it is a really cool operative. Here's a question. So when it comes to the Gallo Dark, do you just suffer, or is there a whole other set of tricks that makes them also valid on Gallo Dark?
Oh, no. There are a few tricks, and it's crying. It's, pooping myself a couple times in a corner, whining about why hatchways don't work with fly. I do that quite a bit. That's a good trick.
And then you bust out the heavy barricade and then camp the board.
Yep. It's weird because your shooting gets a little more lethal on Gallo Dark. You have a couple blast weapons that now also just get lethal 5, so you don't have to have the drone babysitting them as much. But obviously, having your mechanic getting negatively affected just by existing on the board does hurt sometimes. Usually I'll try to make sure I can go through as many doors as I can, early on, turn 1. If I can, I'll try to do a dash or with a reposition before the scouting phase. That way I can open a door, so hopefully somebody can go through it next turn into a barricade with darting flight. Because darting flight's your number one way to get yourself through those doors with extra D3 movement.
Yeah, add the extra inches that you lose on the way through the door.
Mm-hmm. Either that and the dash equipment, where you can, I think it's aggressive stimulants, where you get +1 to your charges and dashes. That one's good on Into the Dark to counteract it a little bit, because you're moving basically 10 inches with it, so you're back down to 9 if you're moving and dashing. And then once you're through doors, you don't have to worry about it as much. But until you get through those doors, life is pain and agony.
It's okay. I mean, that's what the heavy barricade and the 2 light barricades are for, right? You set them up at exactly 9 inches away from where you expect to need to go, and then you just camp the rooms and pray.
Yeah, it's kind of sucky sometimes because if somebody has blast and they're like, well, you had to set up here, and then I got initiative, I'm going to go blast his Vespids, which also has lethal 5.
I assume for Vespid, you've been doing some version of confirm kill and kill up just to really focus your game plans.
Again, Vespid's kind of like Gellerpox. You don't know who you're going to kill, but you do know people will die. Yeah, it just depends on which one of them's rolling the crits. So I try to avoid the kill op just because I don't like relying on that with them. Especially sometimes my mechanic says I can't shoot targets that I want to shoot. Confirm kill though is a good one. I do enjoy that one a lot. You have the mobility to pick up those bodies, especially versus elites. Nothing funnier than killing an elite and having the drone pick up the body because they can fly super far.
Nothing stopping him. And also, he's just kind of a hard target to shoot. Like, if they want to spend time shooting your 5-up invuln save, 2-up drone, you're like, that's probably okay. He's probably not going to die.
More piercing as well. Like, it's
yeah, exactly. I mean, this is the only team that I think has. I guess Gellerpox also have this, but you do have 2 operatives that just fully ignore piercing, which is a nice little tech piece. Have you ever, I've made fun of the Flamer Vespid quite a bit. Have you ever not taken him and just taken a normal warrior instead?
Oh, I do that every time. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. There are times I do take the Flamer, but it's not because I think he's good. It's to kill my own models. Which, yeah. A lot of times.
Please tell us more, Ryan. That seems like an interesting plan.
Hot tech.
Yeah, hot take. If you kill Vespids, it's great for you. Business is booming. So a lot of times people like to hide in melee with Vespids because they're 2 APL. Once they move and shoot you in your face, if you didn't die, guess what? That's a great place to not get shot anymore. You charge them, you fight the Vespid, you leave it on like 1 or 2 wounds, and then you have a great staging point for the following turn. Example being like the Night Lord Screecher. Let's just imagine him. Gets in, charges some guys, does his dash in with like the tack ploy and gets stuck into somebody else. What do you do about that guy? He's in your backlines. Well, the Flamer doesn't care who it kills. So you go over this creature and the model that they stuck in melee, and then you kill your Vespid, who's on like 1 or 2 wounds, and then maybe you get some chip damage on the Night Lord who charged you, and now the Night Lord is free to shoot. So realistically, you trade one of your Vespids, who is already probably dead anyway, for a giant target who's in your backlines now.
It literally became a liability at that point, and you are taking that liability away.
Yeah, and maybe dealing some chip damage to the Night Lord on the way out.
That's super clever.
Yeah, I've done that versus Goremongers before, which was very funny, because he did not realize he was, not safe. That's mostly what I'll use the Flamer for, to counter, my opponent getting way too cheeky in my backlines.
I do know some pretty fun little tech piece, and obviously not a tech piece that you probably had until you had this extra operative, right?
I think it was there. I think just Vespids weren't good enough anyway at that point, where it didn't matter what I was doing. But with the balance, the update, this team has legs. Like, it can do some stuff. Like, I don't feel as helpless as I was previously.
Yeah, I thought that they were in an okay spot before, just because every once in a while, you only need like 2 good dice sequences. But unlike Rekka, like the Rekka crew, you only need 1 dice sequence, and then your next 2 or 3 are probably fine. Vespid, it's you never know when the dice sequence is going to work, and it might actually be in the next game.
Yeah, and then it's like Crit City, but you already lost the last one, so I have felt that pain. There was like one Phobos I tried to kill who was just on 1 wound. and I sunk like 4 shots into him, and he just survived, no problem. And I was like, all right, I guess I'll get you next game. It's fine. We'll see if we can shoot you with the whole team next time.
Yeah. I guess there's also, you could take the ammo crate, which is, tech that some other regions
never.
been doing.
No,
You've never taken it. Okay, all right.
Because it costs you 2 communion typically to use it. It's considered a mission action.
True. Have you run out of communion points post change?
I have. It's hard to do. Because, and again, if you're just careless with it, you can run out for sure. If you're taking the ammo crate, you're just asking for it. But
yeah, basically all the games that I've watched since that first set of changes where that you could stack up communion points from turn to turn, I was just like, well, I don't think I've ever seen someone even get close to running out. So I stopped taking that equipment, or stopped telling people to take the equipment, just because I pretty much always saw games end with like 8 or 9 communion points. So I kind of figured that the ammo crate probably would be fine, just to make sure that you have a little bit of dice rolling. But it's interesting to hear that you actually have run out in this current, probably because you have the extra operative, so you have more choices, and every once in a while you do want to take that long range shot, and now it's actually coming up because you've got more lines.
Yeah, there's a good amount of times where I like to take obscured shots that I know won't do anything with the I think it's the Sky Blast is his name.
Just to add more cancer to the board.
Yeah, because a lot of times if there's no good options and my opponent thinks he's so clever with a guy in, obscuring far away, yeah, I might as well do something. Instead of passing, I'm just going to shoot with him, get a radiation token on the board, and then just scoot away into cover. A lot of times I'm taking those shots, you need the communion to do it. So even though it's not a worthwhile shot, you still have to invest something into it. So I do still typically take the like neurostimulant equipment, just because I never want to be in that situation where I want to take a shot and I don't have the option to. It's terrifying, and I just have chosen not to do that. Maybe it's greedy and I really don't need to, but I don't want to find out what that game's like.
Yeah, I mean, the Vespid are definitely in an interesting spot. Definitely, I feel like they have not been doing all that well in comparison to their Hive Storm brothers, the Tempestus Aquilons, who have definitely picked up in both popularity and win rates since their major changes. So it's cool to hear that Vespid have been doing at least better. I mean, where do you think their bad matchups lie?
Goremongers are one of them. That's a very uphill matchup because you get somebody down to 2 wounds, they charge you, they heal, they kill a guy, they charge another guy, they kill that guy, and it's just a big old mess. Goremongers are one of the things that kind of kept me off of playing Vespids for Goonhammer, legitimately. Mm-hmm. Yep. Because I was just like, I had played a match a few weeks beforehand, and it was a way closer game than I wanted it to be. And I knew, I was just like, well, if like I just match up into one of these, I have to play perfect to have a chance. So like they struggle into stuff like that. They struggle into like, I haven't played against them, but I imagine Felgors would be the similar case. Beyond that, like there's Sanctifiers, of course. That's just generically good team. There's a few teams that they can struggle into, but it depends on how you're rolling. It's kind of like Rekkas, where Rekkas can struggle against anybody, or they can absolutely curb stomp anybody. It's not really up to what you or your opponent's doing. Vespids kind of fill in that same boat, where any game can look like a breeze, or look like it's like the hardest game I've ever played. Depends on how those crits go.
Yeah, riding by the skin of your teeth just because you have no clue when you're going to roll a 5 or a 6. Although, luckily for Vespid, at least you can aim for 5 or 6 because that oversight drone now just gives you lethal 5s.
Yeah, the drone giving you lethal 5 has been, a huge blessing. Because before that, it was just when it just had saturate. It's like, well, what am I even doing with this? I don't care about that. I'm just dying. So the drone giving lethal 5 is one of the things I always like to maximize the most. And on maps like Vulcus maps, I will pair it with the comms array to give it that 9-inch boost. Mm-hmm. Especially now, because it doesn't need vision onto your friendly Vespids. It just needs vision onto the enemy and be within range. So like having a 9-inch range without vision, it's like damn near half the map when you do it right.
So I'm curious if you've gotten any use out of having your Vespid. It sounds like you sage your Vespid fairly aggressively up on like probably like the third up on the board. Do you get any value out of having your Vespid like crowd out Vantages so your opponents can't charge you on top of Vantages?
I have done that versus some Angels of Death. There's one point where one of like the big L pieces on Volcus, I just put like 5 of them up there, and I was like, "What are you gonna do about it, idiot? You can't get up here." And then he didn't, and then they all flew down and just swarmed him, and it was kind of just like a big old hive cloud, just went from one Marine to the other, just all poking and prodding them until they died.
Yeah, because I've had a similar experience with Pathfinders while I was setting up boards. I'm like, oh, I guess I actually have to like rim the Vantage so there's nowhere to land. So I get the sense that Vespid you could do the same thing, especially on some of those L shapes. Like you just crowd out the front of the Vantage, and the only spot your opponent can go is on the floor, and then you just yeet your dudes up and blow them up, and then your opponent's got to respond to those guys in front of them.
It is pretty good, even if like they do get a charge up there nowadays. Like odds are you're charging 2 models, and then like the Vespids, if you paid for Sting, are hitting on 2s in melee. You're hitting on 2s with lethal 5 and shock. So it's never something you really want to go into, because you're probably going to take like 6 damage just to get that charge off and kill them. Especially if you have like Hardened Exoskeleton up, where it's like they're reducing damage by 1. They're not too favorable to charge like that, like they used to be. Yeah,
because now you've got 3 on 4 or 3 on 3s, Ceaseless, Sting, and Shock, right? So you can really put the hurt on your opponent
as well. Yeah. If you move, you also get the balance.
Oh, interesting. I didn't even think about.
Yes, you effectively have like relentless melee with Sting on.
Yeah. So you can definitely get some work done.
Well, yeah, and then D3 damage additionally if you get a crit. So a lot of times if you just charge somebody, I think it's the
Vicious Venom.
Yeah,
very similar to the Phobos, but just in a melee step. You hit them with a crit, and then you flick them for an extra D3.
Yeah, there's a couple times I've just one-shot models with that, just because it's like, all right, we'll see what this does, and then it works really well.
Yeah, you just hit that poor guardsman for a 4 and a D3 for 3. Just execute him on the spot.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden they're like, wait, I thought you were a shooting team. And I was like, I thought I was too, but here we are.
Definitely the guardsmen. I guess Brood Brothers are one of those teams that would be kind of afraid of this, right? Like Brood Brothers get a lot of value on their small dorks kind of wandering around in Vespid. When you're turning on the melee weapons, you can just charge and reliably kill a 7 wound dork.
It gets to a point where your opponent can't predict if you're going to move and shoot them, if you're going to charge and fight them. And then, they're going to start making wrong moves because they think you're going to do one thing or the other, or you do both. And then there's nowhere to hide. That's one of the things I found with Vespid. When it starts really rolling and then you're getting consistent rolls, where like there's a few crits every roll, it just snowballs to the point where your opponent hemorrhages models, because that's way too much damage to keep up with.
Yeah, the crits from every
the high
roll
thing that Jason would want to do.
Yeah, I mean, this is very appealing to me. So, I mean, like, and
I was going to
like,
say, is this convincing?
About like the threat saturation concept, where essentially you're trying to hit them with every single model at the same time, where like you just throw a ton of dice, they throw a ton of dice, and then your wound break points are just enough for this to be favorable to you. So it's pretty much just like you stage well because you fly, and you hit them all at once, and then they can't kill all of you, and it's a big brawl, and that's the best way to play Kill Team.
I can honestly say Vespids are some of the most fun games I've had, because it's just simple stuff. There's no unit who's like, sticking back, doing comms abilities, or, trying to stop operatives from activating. You got one drone who says, go have fun. He watches all the little kids go off and play with their toys. And then all the Vespids are just, running and gunning, charging and fighting, spending points left and right. It's just good old-fashioned dice rolling. And it's been some of the most fun I've had with Kill Team so far. Doesn't always work, but most of the time so far it has.
Yeah, definitely an interesting way to handle the game. am curious, and I kind of want to play them. Although I played them a little bit before they got changed, and I was kind of the opinion that they definitely need an operative or some other larger change. So I haven't really thought about going back since they've been changed, and now I'm kind of thinking about it.
Like they're fun. They are even if you don't win or whatnot, it's just a good time rolling like potentially that many crits. The first tournament I took them to, the sniper, I think it's the long strain. He single-handedly every game deleted 2 Marines on his own, just because he just wouldn't stop rolling crits. And then it was like, oh, 3 crits in a hit, 4 crits in a hit, because he hits on 3s as well.
Yeah.
And he just kept sniping Marines left and right to the point where I was like, oh, is he gonna do it again?
I mean, he can be very strong. He is one of the better models on the team, and then leaving behind poison means that you only have to get up to the 12 damage breakpoint, which he can definitely do.
Yeah, and the poison's even better nowadays because it's when they activate. Before it used to be in the strategy phase, they take damage. And if you stack that with the Fallout token, your opponent can potentially take 6 damage before they even activate to do anything.
That's big.
Which I have gotten off a number of times.
Yeah, definitely an interesting team. I'm just thinking like, do you have maps that you think are better for them? I guess Volcus in general is quite good just because you want to stage up aggressively. You'll add heavy barricades where you think you can create just like the non-reciprocal shooting line around the midboard.
Yeah, no, Volcus, any map of Volcus is a good map for Vespids. Some of the Into the Dark are fine. Because again, like it's not like you're helpless on Into the Dark. It just depends on the matchup. Because you do have Ocelli as well in your back pocket for Into the Dark, where if people are forced to take light barricades, and they didn't think about it, then you're just getting a free shot at turn 1. Usually, I'll use the Sky Blast. He'll shoot them while they're on conceal, and then if he does damage or not, now there's a Fallout token behind their barricade, and now the barricade's useless.
I love that so much.
That's very cute.
But also, like with the drone can give you saturate, so that makes your odds of doing damage go way up because they can't double retain anymore.
For sure. It depends on where the drone is. On Into the Dark, it's a little more limiting because the line of sight isn't as good, and you still have to measure through walls for it.
And the drone can only be in
a lot
one
of
spot.
times a lot of times I kind of fail to effectively use him on Into the Dark. It's still something I'm working on. But yeah, yes, you are correct. You can still severely punish your opponent if they didn't respect being able to get shot behind light cover.
Big.
Have you tried? Have you noodled around with any of the other attack ops on them, or has it mostly been a confirmed kill fest?
Oh no, I have done. I do storm objectives a lot. They are surprisingly effectively good at it. Because usually you're getting within 2 of your opponent. If they've staged on their home objective turn 1, you usually can stage to get within 2 of them turn 2. Ideally, you shoot them off the board. Sometimes you don't, but in a perfect world, you shoot them off that objective. You then control the objective. You get a point. Now your opponent has to get back on that objective, and then you keep playing for it. And usually by the end of the turn, you can control it. I like
the idea is that you just like chuck operatives on it, right? And unlike the Hernkid Jaeger who have troubles getting to the objectives, Vespid just ignore everything and show up on the objective.
Yeah, I have so many operatives who can get to it, and if they can't get to it, I can spend a CP to just, get to it. So Storm is good. Confirmed kill is good. Don't know if I feel like there was another one that I was playing. I like the idea of recover item, but I'm too scared to play it. I'm gonna be honest. It just looks scary.
Valid.
Yeah, you gotta make it through the end of the game and then still have operatives to go fly around to these far-flung parts of the board that are fully unrelated to each other.
Yeah, it's just one of the things where maybe if I played it and then I kind of saw how it would work, I could think about it a little bit better. But I just don't need to deal with it. I'm not playing Vespids to think. I'm playing them to shoot them in the face. Champion's obviously a no-go. And Overrun is not happening, not with 2 APL models who can easily die. So I think it's probably for me just been between Storm and Confirmed Kill. Plant Beacons is there, but it'll be a cold day in hell before I play Plant Beacons.
I mean, if you're not taking the ammo crate, I can't imagine you trying to plant beacons.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Those are my convenient points. I get those. Those are a snack for later.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm going to do beacons, it's going to be meat beacons for sure. Plant beacons? Nah.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, it's a hot take, but anyone who plays Plant Beacons, you're just a lesser kill team player. I'm sorry.
All right, I'm sure the 15 Phobos players who are listening to this right now feel particularly triggered.
Yeah, if they could hear what I'm saying through their smoke grenades, they'd be very upset.
Well, luckily, when you play the Vespid, you buzz right past it.
And
unironically, the smoke clears, and then you Aselli jump over them to get advantage and blow them up.
Yeah, and then I snap back to reality, and I realize all of the bolter rounds are in my bugs, and they're on the ground. Because Phobos is a god-awful matchup for Vespids. That's one I did forget.
Mm. Just because they outcage you and they've got the movement to get around and kind of ignore your whole shtick.
Yeah, so again, last time I had played them, it was before the buff. But the Reavers get in your back line. Then by the time you're dealing with the Reavers, a lot of the other guys have staged and set up in smoke grenades with the Vox Breaker. So then if you want to get within 2, you don't get any rerolls with the Vox Breaker, which means you're just really relying on natural crits. And then if you don't do the job, well, if you're within 2, they're just going to shoot you and stand where they are. And then you have to keep, kind of shoveling models into that bubble and hope you roll well. Which a lot of times hitting on 4s, it's going to miss more often than hit.
And darn Voxbreaker. And I guess, the Necron menace has basically subsided as far as the Psychomancer go, but if he ever reared his ugly head again, that would give you fits as well.
Yeah, I haven't actually played Higher Tech Circle versus the Vespids, but I don't think it would be an issue now. I think back in the day for sure, I would just be, crap on my pants the minute I saw the pairings, but I think right now it'd probably be fine because I don't really care too much if they do the weird teleport shenanigans. Cool, you got one Vespid.
Yeah, the Psychomancer would be way more spooky. Teleport guy, you're like, we're both teleporting. Like I teleport and shoot, you teleport and shoot, then I teleport and shoot again, and you have to wait till next turn.
Right, yeah, you have to wait till you're expended, bucko.
Yeah, everyone you have teleports while he's got the one dude, he's expending, he's shooting through the eyes, and you're just like, I'm just going to run up, blow you up, and pray that the power of neutron fragments gets through. I do wish, if there was one more buff left in the Vespid tank, neutron flamer, come on. Just put it on.
Yeah.
Give it piercing like everyone else.
Or, honestly, I just wish it kind of had, the blaze effect from Sanctifiers.
Yeah, so a little bit of juice because it's just so boring. Even though it has the cool ability to sky torch and jump over a group of people, it's just so annoying to actually set up. Where I haven't really ever felt like it was that good, unless you're toasting yourself. It sounds like.
Yeah, that is the secret tech. It's what he says in his keywords.
It says friendly fire to free yourself from agony.
So.
Mm-hmm.
Does that work with the ploy that gives you an extra D3 inches?
No. I wish, but no.
You can't do anything aggro on the turn that you do the D3 inches.
Yeah, that one's solely for mission actions or mobility.
Because isn't it... I don't know. That's a bummer. That's a big bummer.
It is. Now, trust me, I've been where you are, where I was like, oh, wait, could this work with... No, it doesn't. I forget specifically why, but I think it's because
it needs
it's still considered a shoot action.
Specifically. And then the other thing is fiery assault or whatever, and it's not the reposition action.
Oh. Yeah.
Boo.
Too bad.
It would make the flamer a lot cooler if you could do that, but even then, his gun is only, I think, 4 shots, 3/3 damage, something along those lines.
He's
but
a
it
chip
would
damage
be cool.
flamer. I mean, if they made him a 4/4 flamer, it'd also probably be fine. So there's a couple ways that.
Yeah, or if he had Blaze, because Blaze would kind of fit in with the extra mortal wounds that the team deals.
Yeah, it'd have to be some version of Rad Blaze or something.
Yeah, it is just a weird choice, honestly.
I mean, to be fair, this is probably part of the GW development cycle where this was developed, without things being seen. This is like the first box they designed clearly, and I'm sure that as they were iterating through the designs, we've been getting more damage. Raveners get D3 damage, the Flamers do D3. So
yeah, it's it was a weird choice that he was the only model on the team that doesn't benefit from a faction ability. For no other reason than they were just like, well, you can't have shards in the Flamer. That doesn't make any sense.
can't have the neutron inside the Flamer. That would be ridiculous.
What the heck? We only put it outside on the floor with this one guy.
And inside your body with the shards on the railgun. Which, yeah, you definitely live through the railgun.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish he was better, but it is what it is. There's other teams I think that still need a lot more help than Vespids at the moment. So hopefully those guys get.
Yeah, I mean, Jason has been out here playing Kasserkin for I don't know how long at this point, but it does not sound like it has been the chillest team to play.
Yeah, it's a pretty split. Some really good games, and I've had some really bad games. And like honestly, now that I have enough reps with them, I'm like I can play them a lot like Phobos with just some really rude shots, and just like ignore obscuring, and then having long range shots all over the place is actually like pretty potent. It's just like if you're taking long range shots, like all of your rerolls go away, so it's like not great.
And I imagine the survivability is still paper thin.
Yeah,
right?
they're just flimsy boys with no rerolls, and then it's like you kind of just I don't know. And like they're a little bit better at melee than you expect, but it's still not like it's not quite actually good enough. But you can like if you trade everything that makes you good, you can be 4 attacks on 4, 3/4 with +1 damage on your first hit, and you can bully like Brood Brothers. Maybe.
Not the most reliable strategy. But, Vespid sound like that's right up your alley right now, Jason, except for it. And it feels like it's kind of like a blend of when you were talking about like Mono Banshee Blades of Cain, where you're just yeeting dudes up to the middle board and then just
but it's the shooting
just swinging
version.
out and hitting people in the face. So the way that Orion has described Vespid is exactly what that sounds like.
But way better than what I wanted out of Mono Banshees. Because Mono Banshees, threat saturation doesn't matter because you're all paper. With these thick boy bugs, with a little bit of damage reduction potential, flying dodge thing, that only works if the opponent moved?
Yeah.
Moved or is on counteract.
Yeah, I don't know if does that come up a lot for you or not really?
I spend for it a lot. I don't know if that answers the question.
So you
do to make your opponent have to move.
Does it?
Yeah, I do.
Come up though?
There have been a few times where it has been like the most godly thing I've ever seen. Most time I spend for it though, my opponent's just like, okay, so as long as I don't move, like I explain it because it's a lot of words and it's a lot of technicalities, and then they're like, oh, well, so if I don't move, I don't have to worry about it, right? I'm like, yeah, you got it. And then they kill me. But no, it's not bad. And a lot of times you don't have too many things to spend your CP on. So you just spend it anyway, just because it might come up.
I feel like I would juice
because you already get
time, and then just try to like, you run around, you do some shots. Like someone's like down to like 6 health or under, and then you're just like, let's give them the claws. Easy.
Yeah. Sting is usually on most of my games. The one I always take for free, because the leader gives you one for free, is always Airborne Predators, just because it's universally good turn 1 through 4.
Is that the balance shooting one?
Yep. Just balance if you move.
Everything, yeah.
Well, balance even in melee.
Yeah.
It says all weapons, so, yep.
You guys.
And you can pair it with the ceaseless equipment for melee, so you just basically have relentless melee.
Kind of juicy. Wow. I like this.
Yeah, there's things to do with the team. On the surface level, the team looks pretty cut and dry, but there are little intricacies here and there where it's like you can maximize to actually play them a little bit higher than they're, I think, traditionally played. And again,
I
if
mean,
you're good
at the
at
end of the day,
staging,
kill team is all about the tiny optimizations, right? You know, the difference between you not touching terrain and touching terrain in terms of actual gameplay outcomes is like massive. And most
yeah,
players don't know that until they play against a person who's always touching terrain and then explaining cover to them.
yeah, breaking out the laser line. That's
You know, a lot of people at these first tournaments are like, "Are you sure that these little nubs provide cover?" And I do tell them, like, they do provide cover. And here, let me show you exactly why. And it is a struggle every time.
yeah, you too can be a nub enjoyer.
It's an important part of the overall experience of upper level kill team. Touch the terrain. But, you know, what kind of teeny tiny things have you found that maybe aren't super intuitive on Vespid? You know, obviously on Gellerpox, you have a lot of experience doing stuff like this, but on Vespid, this is kind of a different vibe. So I'm curious, you know, we talked a little bit about vantage point, crowding the vantage points, but are there any other teeny tiny things that have come up a couple times that you were like, interesting, that's notable?
I think some things I've found, like the drone is one of my weird counterpieces when I take storm objectives, that a lot of people don't see coming because he has an 8-inch move with the 3 inches with a dash. A lot of times, as my last activation with so many hot amount of activations, if your opponent leaves their home objective open, you just shoot the drone over there and score 2 points.
Wow.
That's one of the little things that come out very nichely, but I have done it a couple times. Again, the extra D3 damage is something that people just don't see coming ever, and you can play around with that a lot. It's just the threat of that. You tell people about it, and then they stage different, and then you probably end up putting them in a blast. Something I found very underwhelming with this team initially was the Warriors' ability to have accurate 1. But then I quickly realized if they're on advantage, just period, it's now accurate 2. And having an accurate 2 P1 balanced gun will do stuff.
Yeah, especially because now you have lethal 5. So you have lethal 5, and effectively you're throwing 3 dice with 2 in the backups. You're hitting like 3 to 4 dice generally. And then piercing 1 with that means you're generally at least doing 3 damage. Whereas before, you didn't have the lethal 5, and you were just chucking 2 dice with accurate 2, and it was kind of a crapshoot on whether or not you were actually going to hit a crit. Now you have a reasonable chance at actually landing some actual damage.
Yeah, and with the comms device with that, again, it usually means as long as you roll well enough, minimum your opponent's taking 6 damage, no matter what you rolled. As long as you got 4 hits, which nobody likes. Nobody likes to see that. And again, darting flight, another one of the little tips and tricks I like to do turn 1 is I'll use that to throw a stun grenade that people didn't see coming. Because you just shoot up the board really fast.
I'm hearing Jason want to play Vespid in the back of his brain, because this is what Jason does on his Phobos too.
I just had to go look them up and be like, is anybody selling these around here?
Yeah, because if your opponent stages a little back with if they're a guard team and they bunch up a bunch of guys, you can pregame scout your Shade Strain out in the middle of the field because nobody can touch them.
It's Alpha Strikes, but it's for stuns.
Alpha stuns, baby.
Stunna strikes.
Yeah, a lot of times I've done that where you get 3 inches there. You can potentially get up to 3 inches from darting flight. And then you can get up to 10 inches with a move and a dash, turn 1 maximum. If you cut just any of those 3 inches down, you have the APL to throw a stun somewhere.
So funny.
And then if you get the initiative, you then follow that up with the Shade Strain moving and throwing his blast grenade.
Some fun stuff. And your opponents probably never see it coming.
Yeah, there's just too many operators to track, and also nobody cares enough. They're like, "Oh, you're playing Vespids? Okay, whatever." And then you start doing stuff, and then they realize that maybe Vespids should take a little attention. Maybe.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah,
I'm actually very curious to see if anyone is able to take Vespid on a larger run. I think the most we've seen on our week-to-week stat show for Patreon listeners is, I think, a 4-0 and probably some 4-0-1s. but I haven't seen anyone try to take them in a big tournament and do particularly well with them. So I'm curious if you know of a run.
Well, I'll be at the Command Point event this weekend with them. So
Okay,
that's a
nice.
5-round event.
Are you gonna have to play against Shane's Higher-Tech?
No, not unless the TO, decides to put the smackdown on me for some reason, But we'll see. There's some good players there. Vivek will be there. I don't know what he's running.
Yeah, the Toronto group is gonna be coming down for the Rochester event, I assume.
Yeah. So this will be my first big event with the Vespids. I've done I think 1 or 2 3-0s with them. So I mean they have performed well for me previously, and that was actually before the buffs. But
yeah, I mean they definitely have. I mean, just like Rekka Crew before them and any of these dice centric teams, they always have the chance to pop off. Just because you only need one good sequence to really send your opponent into a different dimension.
you just gotta believe. I think with Rekkas and any other team like that, just believe you'll roll the crits and it'll happen.
Players out here believing in the heart of the dice. Get out of here.
Oh yeah, I mean if you believe, it'll work sometimes, right? And then yeah, it's because I believed.
It's only got to work once at a critical moment for your opponent to go crashing down. Especially because a lot of players have their best laid plans, right? We got a lot of people playing these kind of finicky teams. Elves in general, pretty finicky, and if you can get a couple shots off from an aggressive position, you can really just nuke your opponent. Because as good as neutron blasters are, 8 wounds is not enough wounds to deal with the average neutron blaster shot.
No, it's not. Yeah, the 8 wounds threshold is very good for their breakpoints. I played against Colt a couple times with Vespids, and it was shocking just how much I was bullying the little 7 wound cultists and the 8 wound mutants, because they can't afford to lose mutants. But I was like, well, I got 2 crits and a hit. You're pretty much dead unless you make all your saves.
Just enough damage at all times. How's the Baltimore area been doing in the meantime? It's been a while since you've been on the podcast. Obviously, you did well at Goonhammer with Gellerpox, and now you're thinking about Vespid. By the time this podcast comes out, you'll have already done the run. So, me and Jason will probably talk about it on our Patreon show.
Yeah, listen to this idiot. We spent an hour with him, and he went 0-5.
People are gonna have to find out on Patreon. But on the meantime, we talk a little bit about the local crew, any local tournaments coming up, or how's Plasma Spam doing? The home crew.
So Plasma Spam, thank you for asking. That was very nice of you to ask. Plasma Spam is doing good. Daniel Valente says hi, by the way. I was hanging out with him half an hour ago. Plasma Spam is good. We recently lost our shop, Titan Games. Very sad, very tragic. If you want to learn more, just type it into Google. You'll find out all the terrible details that happened. So we have relocated to a new game store called Game Haven, which has been very generous in helping us run events, and they even actually bought some of the tables from Titan, which has been nice. It's been kind of feeling like home away from home. But we've been working with them. The Baltimore scene.
What is it? The December tournament has got a new spot.
Yeah, the Critmas is what you're referencing.
Yeah, right? Yeah, the gingerbread tournament. For anyone who's listening has never heard about it, Orion puts on a gingerbread kill team event for December every year. So I guess the home base has moved.
Yeah, it will be back and bigger than ever this year. It may not be a Game Haven just because I haven't really talked with them about doing an event like that. If not, it'll probably be where Kill Team Open was last time we hosted it, which was at White House Caterers. But we'll see about that. That's in December. That's ways away. Yeah, that might just tie into something different. But yeah, overall, Baltimore scene is doing good. We're getting new players every day, even with the loss of the game store that we had. Man, before it shut down, I tell you what, we had 10 to 12 players every Wednesday night. It was getting pretty big. And now they're all scattered across the Primarchs. We're trying to collect them all one by one.
I think that's actually kind of been a common thing that me and Jason have heard about across a lot of scenes. The scenes are all going through a little bit of growing pains right now, and that is one of those things. Yeah,
one of our locals who used to come out to Titan every week. He just shut down when Titan closed because he was really sad, and he just didn't check Discords. And then we saw him last week, and I'm like, dude, where have you been? He's like, oh, I just didn't know you guys were doing this. I got real sad, and I stayed in the house, and I didn't check anything. And I checked something this morning. I'm like, oh, they've been active the whole time. Whoops. So we've been getting our folks back, which is nice. And Game Haven, again, it's a good store. It's a great Magic shop if you're into Magic. They do a ton of Magic drafts and stuff like that.
And I suppose you can check in with the Game Haven owners if they're cool with us chucking up the address on the internet for anyone who wants to go play in the Baltimore-ish area.
It's Baltimore, yeah.
Yeah.
It's only about like 10 minutes from where Titan was, which has been nice.
Yeah, just because I know that we have a lot of East Coast people. Obviously, there's a lot of people all the way around the world. But for anyone who's curious and wants to check it out, I guess that would be a good spot to go.
Yep, and any Plaza Spam event they'll be running will probably be operating out of there in the near future. We did do one previously. I think it was like maybe half a month ago at this point. 2 or 3 weeks, which did go well. Eric Cecil was the TO. He ran it very effectively.
Of course, shout out to the rest of Plaza Spam.
Yeah, all the Plaza Spammers, all the Garretts, Janice, Ben Cash, we're all great Plaza Spammers. They're all doing good. They're all happy. They're all healthy. How has the Brooklyn Rats been, since you asked?
Brooklyn's good. I mean, everyone's kind of got their own things. I think like many other scenes, a lot of the old gen players are kind of in and out of the scene, and then the new guard we're trying to see if we can get them into tournaments. So we've got the monthly coming up. We've got the New York Open later this year, and Jason will be there with hopefully parts of the Minnesota crew.
Yeah, we got a couple Minnesota cats going out to New York this year, which is very exciting. Looking forward to that.
Nice. Oh, I didn't mean to ask. Are you doing the So last year, I know you had the not the ITC, but it was the separate ranking system. Is that happening again this year in like our tournaments?
It'll probably happen again this year. Yeah, most of the tournaments that I run will be on it, and I think a lot of the other regions still are registering for those tournaments. So that's the Unified Tournament Circuit by Goonhammer, and we did the finals in Brooklyn in February this year. So I assume next year we'll probably do something similar. And for anyone who's curious, hit me up on Discord or on the Just Another Kill Team Discord, and I'll get you linked up.
Easy.
Alrighty. Well, Orion, thanks for coming by, talking about a whole bunch of teams that I don't think anyone is particularly have on their radar, but obviously you are the man, the myth, the Gellerpox.
I'm the one for all the information that nobody asked for. I play the teams that are bad, so you don't have to.
I love that
or
so
to
much.
brainwash people into playing them, it sounds like.
Look, just because I'm a damn good salesman. Yeah, I also love to play teams that are way out there. I love your style. Just vibing, doing it well, having fun, and pointing. Look, super fun. Gellerpox too.
They are fun. It's a crime that they're going away. Let me just put that out there. It should be whoever just decided that should be locked up, thrown in jail. They saved Cult and Inquisition for another season, but they couldn't do it for Star Shredders and Gellerpox. I don't know. I'm calling shenanigans. They just had to see me down in the mud, didn't they?
It is just specifically targets you almost.
Yeah, it's just me. Yeah, it's no one else.
That is how those nerfs tend to feel.
Yeah. But,
all right, man. Thanks for coming by.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. And thanks for doing what you guys do. You guys do a lot for the Kill Team community, doing these podcasts and reaching out to players like myself. So it means a lot to me at the very least. Thank you guys.
Yeah, super fun having you on again. And as always, thank you, listeners.